Good morning. We're on chapter 7 of Sichot Haran. May our learning today be for a refuah shalema for Asher Chaim ben Dina Malka. I hope he's doing well. I hope he's on his way to getting home soon. May our learning also be for a refuah shalema for all the victims of terror and the recent stabbings in Israel, and anyone else in Klal Yisrael who needs a refuah shalema. This is an amazing chapter today. I like it because it really touches on Rabbi Nachman's view on tefillah and on hitbodedut, but not just on doing these things, but on what our mindset is towards Hashem and our thoughts on Hashem, and how we're talking to Hashem. Whether we daven with a minyan 3 times a day, or we're doing an hour of hitbodedut a day, where are our minds? How are we relating to Hashem? Are we relating to Hashem as, let's say, like we have a conversation with our spouse, or with our employer, or our children, or friends? There have been many, many great Rabbanim throughout the centuries. I forgot who the Rav was. I once read in the Jewish press, they interviewed, I think it was Rav Nassim Tzvi, the former Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir, and they asked him a bunch of different things on his learning and on a lot of different areas of his hashkafa, of his view on life. And the one thing that stuck out to me is he said that he always spoke to Hashem as his best friend. That's another view. Hashem's your best friend. But now here is Rabbi Nachman's view on how we should view Hashem. He says that it's very good for a person to talk to Hashem as a child talks to his parent, and not just how a child talks to his parent, but as a small child speaks to his parent, almost like a toddler speaking to his parent, begging and pleading for something that child wants desperately. Very interesting definition. Sounds almost like if you have children, you know exactly what this is. You have children, you know exactly what this is. That a small child who wants something and is not going to stop, no matter what, until that child gets exactly what they want. And Rabbi Nachman says that this is the way we need to daven to Hashem. This is the way we need to talk to Hashem in hitbodedut. This is the mindset that we have to have. And he says it doesn't matter how old we are. I'm sorry, let me just go back. He gives a proof for this. He says, where does this come from? There's a pasuk in Dvarim, in Yud Daled, pasuk Aleph, it says, Banim atem Hashem Elokeichem, that we are Hashem's children. It says it very clearly in the Torah. We are Hashem's children. So if we're Hashem's children, then we need to act like His children. Rabbi Nachman says here, so it's not he's not making this up. That it's coming straight from the Torah. That we are Hashem's children, no matter what. He then quotes another source of a discussion that occurs in Kedushin on Lamed Aleph. On Lamed Vav, that there's a discussion. When are the Jews called Hashem's children? What if we worship idols? God forbid. What if we get very far away from Hashem? God forbid. What if we're close to Hashem? What if we're 90 years old? What if we're 1 year old? It says that no matter what, no matter how old we are, we're not talking about chronological age, and we're not talking about where on the spectrum of observance we fall or rise, but no matter what, we are Hashem's children, and that is how we need to approach Hashem. That we must first start with this mindset that Hashem, I'm here to talk to you. You put me in this physical world. A lot of things happen to me throughout my day. I need to talk to you throughout the day. like a 3-year-old asking my father, please, I need this, Daddy. I need this, Tati. Whatever your kid calls you. This is what I need, please, and not to stop until you get it, whatever that thing is. And that we have it sounds in today's type of Judaism in Yeshivish, Hasidish, whatever it is, wherever somebody falls on the spectrum. This is you don't see this a lot. You don't see this a lot. Even if somebody might think this, the rare few people who will admit that they think this, because God forbid you should look at yourself like a 3-year-old, but this is real. This is what Rabbi Nachman's talking, that we need to look at ourselves as small children, talking to our Father, not stopping until we get the answer that we need, and keep going. It is very good to do this, whether you're young or old, whether it's in Hidbodedut or in the set tefillah of Shacharis Mincha Marav, that this is how we need to speak to Hashem. There's a story that's told, that famous story that Rabbi Nachman was sick. He actually died very young, in his 30s. He had a 3-year-old grandson, and he once asked him to please daven for him, because I think he was going through a very hard time in the sickness. At that time, he had tuberculosis, and he asked his 3-year-old grandson. There were a bunch of people in the room, and he said, "Please daven for me." So the 3-year-old said, "Let me have your watch." He took his watch off and he gave it to him, and it's well known that if a person goes to a tzaddik, that it's a good practice called pidyon to give the tzaddik tzedakah on your behalf. Then the 3-year-old grandson turned to the wall. He looked up and he started crying, and he said, "Ribono shel olam, Hashem, please make my grandfather better." The adults in the room started laughing, and Rabbi Nachman's face became very serious, and he looked at them and he says, "What are you laughing?" He says, "This 3-year-old child's tefillah, that is the highest form of tefillah out there." Why? Because it's coming straight from the heart. He realizes exactly who he is. He realizes exactly what Hashem is, and he's not going to stop till he gets what he wants. And that's how we need to approach Hashem, like a 3-year-old. This chapter goes on further. He quotes a story of Rav Nachman Pardankar, his grandfather, Rav Nachman's grandfather. He was once on a ship, we think on the way to Eretz Yisrael, and they ran out of food. There was no food whatsoever. They stopped in a city. There were Turks there, so they probably were on their way to Eretz Yisrael. And he got bread, and he washed. He made a motzi. As he's about to take a bite of the bread, a thought popped into his head of a pasuk in Mishlei that says that it's not good to eat the food of someone that has an evil eye, an ayin ra. And actually, it's a Zohar that says that part of the reason that the Jews stayed so long in Mitzrayim was because they ate the food of the Egyptians. It wasn't non-kosher, but they ate the food of the Egyptians, and that prolonged their stay in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. And so he didn't know what to do. He said that he took all of the thoughts that came into his head very seriously, and that this is Hashem, like an emergency code red alert, and this is what's coming on the screen, and it's telling him not to eat. So he didn't know what to do, and then he's thinking about it, and then another pasuk came into his head from Malachim. It talks about that Hashem provided for Eliyahu Hanavi when he was on the run. That it's a pasuk that said that Hashem provided food for Eliyahu through ravens. Now, the spelling of raven, actually I'm not sure if this. I think it's the spelling as well as the trait of a raven. It's really the epitome of an ayin ra, of an evil eye. However, it says that through the ravens, Hashem provided food. So he said, okay, that must be another sign that I should be able to eat. So look, if Eliyahu Hanavi was able to eat, through the raven that represents an Ayin Ra, so I should be able to eat through these Arabs or whatever they were, Turks. And I think the point of the story of why Rabbeinu is mentioning it here um, is to pay attention to our thoughts. It says that the concept that the further away a person is from Hashem, the more pleasure Hashem gets when that person comes and talks to him. It says we just have to open our mouth and our heart, and Hashem is always available. Not like trying to get somebody, the CEO of a big major company on the phone, or on LinkedIn, or on email, or on Facebook, or whatever. Even with today's world of technology, where you have instant access to a lot of information and most people, it's still very hard to get in touch with a lot of people sometimes in business. However, with Hashem, we just have to open our mouth and open our heart. Why? Because we're Hashem's children, and just like a baby crying, the parents are not going to ignore the cry of a baby. Um, and the main thing is we need to work on believing that. It says that a lot of times when we're davening, thoughts come into our head. Well, what does Hashem want? Hashem doesn't really want to hear from me. I'm so far away. I've done so many averas. I'm so bad. I'm such a bad person, and we self-persecute ourselves all the time. I'm very far away from you, Hashem. I know you don't really want to hear from me. I've done this Avera, I've done that Avera, I'm whatever. He says that no, that those thoughts that are coming to our head are sheker. That's not true. That no matter what, we have proof from the Torah that Hashem calls us His children. There's proof from the Gemara that no matter what, even if we're doing idol worship, even the worst of the worst, that Hashem still considers us His children. And if we cry out to Hashem as a 3-year-old child and don't stop until we get what we want, Hashem will give us what we need, will give us what we want. And it's up to us to really focus on that, to believe in that. That's the hard part, to believe that. It's much easier to believe our negative thoughts than it is to believe that we really are, no matter what, Hashem's children, and we just have to talk to Hashem.